So, it begins. Dark were the skies and chill was the wind as the land was covered in a veil of malice. Across the hill did ride a dread army of the night, cloaked in mist and fog, prepared to rain down death and destruction upon the land. And the people did crowd for a savior, a noble soul to save them from their impending demise. Just as it seemed all was lost, in strode a mighty hero, clad in shivering metal from head to toe. Wielding a terrible broadsword, he did cleave his foes in two, smashing their ranks asunder with righteous fury. And when the day was done and the enemy strewn across the fields in pieces, the people did turn to the warrior and say, "We shall name this day in your honor. Speak unto us your wisdom." The warrior said one word that day: epic.
One man, one Murloc, one giant angry badger. This is Blue Plz. It begins now. Yes, indeed, folks. Welcome to Blue Plz, here on cynicalbrit.com with myself, TotalBiscuit. The date is the 2nd of April, 2010. Am I still singing? I suppose. Yes. Can't imagine why. What have I got coming for you in the show today, folks? Things, stuff, places, all sorts of things. Honestly, not all that much, I must attest. Nothing's really been going on this week in terms of WoW or anything like that, so, well, what is there to talk about? Not much. I'll come up with a few things, so I suppose I can do some kind of show. Might be a little bit shorter than usual. It's just the way of it. Sorry. Also got Shoutcraft coming up later in the evening, so hey, a lot of work to be done for that. What have I got coming for the show today, folks? Well, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about extending your lockout. All you need to do is take these 2 pills and you can extend your lockout by a grand total of 7 days. Yes, indeed. 7 days. Just take these pills, very, very cheap. Get them over the internet. Little blue pills and you can extend your lockout. It's absolutely fantastic. So yeah, we're going to be talking about that a little bit later on the show. Also, the concept of the world first and the concept of doing the world first with the 5% buff. Now, I'm not going to blame Paragon for this, because of course they used what was available to them at the time, and that's perfectly fine, but will someone explain to me why exactly it's okay to have the 5% buff in hard modes? We'll figure that one out a little bit later on in the show, or we shall attempt to do so, at any rate. Cap off the show, got the illusion of choice. Yes, indeed. Send your topics to the Murloc at cynicalbrit.com. That is the Murloc at cynicalbrit.com. Now, to make it a little bit more interesting, how about I give the person that sends in the best topic, a baby Windrider pet. Yes, a baby Windrider. Why not? Sounds like a good idea to me. So I shall do that. Send them in to the Murloc at cynicalbrit.com. The one that I pick shall win themselves a little baby Windrider to use in-game. There you go. Don't worry, archive listeners. I've got something for you. The end of the show as well. Don't worry. Chill out, relax, and so forth. Man, it's been such a slow week in WoW, honestly. Really nothing has happened at all. You know, I raided, I did my stuff, I logged off. There's been no major drama, no major announcements of any description whatsoever. I think the biggest thing that came out this week was, Brain Freeze no longer works with Frostfire Bolt. Oh my god. Crazy. You can't do that. That's insane. Wait. No, I have no idea what that is. Nor do I care, because it's Frost. Nobody specs that. I don't know. That's really all there has been to it, honestly, so might as well just kick it off. If you're not already in the chat room, go check it out. cynicalbrit.com. Click the chat button at the bottom of the screen to get in on the video chat. Studio Cam is on for your sins. And I would suggest that you win the code and perhaps wear the hat. You should be wearing the hat. There's not enough hats going on in this channel. How many hats have we got? Boss Wally's not wearing a hat. That's exciting. Mortonot is wearing 5 hats, so I suppose he compensates for the fact that Boss Wally is wimping out on that one. Foley appears to be going to war, which is quite impressive. Black Book seems to have some doubts as to his overall sexuality. Nagranol is not someone I'd want to meet in a dark alley. It would appear that Alec is rather chilly in there, and Evil Sandwich is looking like he's plotting something. Pedro needs no hat because he is the only black guy in the channel. And Zelas is shrouded in darkness. So I'm not really going to be getting all that much from that, I'm afraid. It's crazy. Yeah, if you're missing out on the live chat, then quite frankly, you are... all these people's reactions here, it's great. You're missing out, seriously. Head on over, cynicalbit.com, and tune up for the live show. Sounds like a good idea. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, time for this.
Mail time!
That sounds like it's mail time. Here's the mail.
It never fails.
It makes me want to wag my tail. When it comes,
I want to wail.
Yes, indeed, folks. It's the time where we read the mail. You should not be shocked or surprised by this, although perhaps you are. Maybe you are. Maybe you are thrilled by the whole affair. We shall see. Well, here's one. This one comes from Heath Maloney, and he says... What does he say, actually? Yes, there we go. Hey, I wanted to write to you and say I support you in your right to group with whomever you want in a group. What, you support common sense? Wow. That's truly surprising. Last night I was running Heroic Forge of Souls on my Disc Priest. We had a bear tank, a 4.5k DPS Elemental Shaman, a 4k DPS Ret Paladin, and a 1.8k DPS Death Knight. After downing the first boss, the Ret Pally, who had incidentally waited and rolled Need on the bag after everyone else rolled Greed, you know, an effing ninja, initiated a kick of the Death Knight because he was slowing us down. I voted no, but sadly the sheep in the group voted yes, and it was promptly removed from the group. Now, in my opinion, the Death Knight was in the right place, doing the right thing. If he's trying to gear up his toon, he should be running Heroics. I know that 1.k DPS in the beginning of Wrath was considered very good DPS in a Pog Heroic. Really, was it? I don't remember that time. I don't remember a time when I ever did that, in fact. And those of us who are there simply for Frost Badges should STFU and let the other people gear up. So I exercised my right to group with whomever I want and left the group. No. Honestly, 1.8k DPS, that's okay, I guess, but it's not great. I mean, I understand why people get rid of that. It's subpar. As far as I'm concerned, if you're not doing at least 2, then you're dragging people back. And DKs are notorious for that. I mean, you're really asking for trouble if you play a DK, because people will view it as, oh, he's playing a DK, he's gonna be awful, and invariably they are. So I can understand, honestly, why you would think that, but yeah, fine. Exercise your right and leave the group if you've got a problem with people kicking. And honestly, I think that you should have to have a unanimous vote, i.e. 4-1 to get rid of someone. I'm very surprised that 3-2 is enough. Really. I think that's a little bit too hefty. But yeah, pretty crazy. Oh well, never mind. We shall continue. What else have we got coming up in the mailbox? Really not an awful lot, honestly. It's been such a slow week for everyone. No one really wants to touch anything right now with WoW. I've barely seen anyone on. It's like Ogrimmar was quieter, and there weren't so many people raiding. Trade channel wasn't as spammed as it usually is. It's weird, isn't it? Just everyone seems to be in a little bit of a malaise right now, and I'll tell you about that a little bit later on in the show, because our guild is in a malaise, and we're doing something specific to try and alleviate that particular malaise. I like that word, malaise. You know, it's like mayonnaise, only more malicious. Malaise. Just rolls off the tongue. Yes. I'm going crazy. I'm going to be stir-crazy from lack of anything fun to do in WoW. That's a bad thing, is it not? Right, quick topic here. Bobcat says, Paragon didn't use mages for their first kill. Does this prove that mages are nerfed or they all need to be frostbaked? Har, har, har. I don't know. I don't know Paragon's explanation for that. I can only assume it's not because they're nerfed. They're not the lowest DPS class, so one can only assume it had something to do with the way the fight works in heroic mode. I don't know. I haven't done it yet, so I can't really give you an answer, though I will ask Paragon as to exactly why they did that, and I'll try and reveal that to you next week. It's intriguing, isn't it, that In the day and age of Bring the Player, Not the Class, the hardest fight in the game apparently excludes an entire class, and not one that's traditionally excluded either. We're talking about a main DPS class, one that's been in from the start. That's kind of weird. Very odd indeed, I feel. Oh well. Now, Ben Haynes asks, it's an old topic regarding botting and what Blizzard are doing about it, but one that demands discussion as it's been slowly shunned away. Well, I don't see bots, honestly, because I don't go anywhere near Wintergrasp, and that seems to be the place that they hang out these days. It's funny, because you gotta wonder what exactly they can do about it. There's not a huge amount of things that Blizz can do about it. The botting stuff gets more advanced as more advanced features are put in the game to block it out. So you end up having to have some situation whereby you actively monitor bots. And good luck with that, honestly. Good luck. Because that is tricky, to say the least. That is really tricky. You've got to get the GMs on it, and it's a little bit crazy. It's funny that they haven't really done all that much about hacking under the world and getting under there. I would have thought that would have been pretty easy to spot, admittedly. Of course, they're underground, you can't see them, but whatever. I'm sure that there must be some kind of detection method which says, this player is where he shouldn't be. The game is not supposed to allow that to happen, ergo, this guy is doing it wrong. But I don't know if that's the case. Now, I'm not going to say that Blizzard haven't done anything about botting. They've done an awful lot about it. But you've also got to bear in mind that it's going to be there for the foreseeable future, whether you like it or not. And it's really difficult to eliminate. Now, what can Blizzard do about that? Well, that comes down to a software coding issue. Like, can Blizzard do anything about this whatsoever? Well, maybe. Maybe not. But how do we know? It's sort of difficult to find out. And we're not coders. So it's tricky to work out exactly what they would do about it. I do agree that something has to be done about it, no doubt, but I think right now they're probably concentrating on the hacking of accounts. Botting is not the main method of earning money to sell for gold. Account hacking is. So that's something they should be focusing on, I would think. And they seem to be doing a pretty good job of that thus far. But people just need to keep buying those authenticators, and, you know, it's not like they haven't made them available. For God's sake, protect your own account. How difficult an idea is that? I don't really see a problem with that. Right, here's one from Tika, and he asks this. My topic is, trying out raid boss mechanics in heroics. Is it a good thing? And does annoying in a heroic equal good in a raid environment? Have any boss fights in Wrath Heroic impressed you in a way that you thought it would be a good raid boss mechanic and spell? I can think of one, actually, yeah. Let's see. Oh, yes, that would be, of course... I must have the button somewhere, I'm sure I do.
You dare look upon the host of souls! I shall devour you all!
Yes, wouldn't that make a great boss mechanic? Oh, wait! It already was! It's kind of in reverse. Oh, look, it's the Reliquary of Souls. They didn't even bullet take souls off the end of it. That works. I'm trying to think of anything else that would make a good one, and... there's nothing in there. Actually, no... There is one that would make a great one, but they gotta do it properly, and that's the Confessor in the Trial of Champions, the one that spawns those various bosses, except they all do exactly the same thing. They could do a great opera event style thing by doing that and having it bring back real versions of old bosses, like, here's Ragnaros, here's Nefarian, here's Cthulhu, blah blah blah, and they've all got mechanics based around the old stuff, but they're made and sort of modernized. That would have worked really well, and I'm sort of annoyed that they haven't done that yet. They've completely missed the trick there. And now, I didn't exactly expect them to do anything good, really. I didn't expect anything amazing from that particular boss in that 5-man, because that 5-man is garbage. But it would have been nice if it had actually had some kind of difficulty to it and some substance, as opposed to, oh look, it's Hogger, her her her. It is exactly the same thing. Yeah... It's not great, is it? It's not something that I was particularly impressed by, and I'm sure nobody else was either. Trying to think if there's anything else, any other good boss mechanics. Well, we've seen some similar ones. I mean, if you look at Scardy versus Razor Scale, those are relatively similar fights in certain regards. What else is there? Wrath Heroics weren't very good, let's be honest. There's not an awful lot that impressed me in any of them that would make me say, okay, this is awesome. You know, they took some of the mechanics on a new Barak, they changed things around. That wasn't even a great fight to begin with. Most of them are just tank and spanks. And I'm trying to think if there's a mechanic that is overwhelmed by the tank and spank nature of everything that would actually work properly, and none are coming to mind, I'm going to be honest. But if you can think of one, email it in, themurloc@cynicalbrit.com. Let me know, just as a bonus topic for today, exactly which heroic fight mechanic you'd like to see made into a raid, and how you would advance it to make it challenging in a raid environment. Go for it, sounds like a good idea to me. Yes, indeed. My name is TotalBiscuit, you're listening to Blue Plz here on cynicalbrit.com. I shall be back after the break to talk to you about raid lockouts, extending them, yes. Increase your raid's girth, extend your raid's lockout. Insert additional euphemism here. I'll be right back. Enjoy. You're listening to the podcast, an archive of Blue Plz. Music was removed to comply with copyright law. If you'd like to hear the music, tune into the live stream on Fridays at 8 p.m. GMT. That's 3 p.m. EST, only on cynicalbrit.com. And now for the latest in raiding news. A union of all the bosses in Northrend is protesting outside of Azeroth's highest court, demanding that a huge number of guilds be banned for what they called leet hacks. We spoke to the leader of the group, Mr. Putricide, who had this to say. Terrible news, everyone! We're getting steamrolled on a weekly basis by thousands of guilds, and it's all because of UGT Ventrilo servers. Crystal clear, low-latency voice-over IP allows guilds to communicate quickly and effectively, so they can down bosses with ease.
Sir?
What is it, Rodface?
We have a UGT server too, sir! We got it from UGT-servers.com!
What? Why wasn't I invited?
Well, Arthur said you were too cheery, and he's concerned that your malleable goo will stain the carpet.
Your guild is a community, and communities want to stay in touch. Whether you're in an intense arena match, an epic raid, or just hanging out and shooting the breeze, you need an always-on Ventrilo server from UGT-servers.com. Crystal clear quality, low latency, and of course, low prices. UGT-servers.com are so good, they should be considered an exploit. Get yours today. Yes, indeed, folks, the sounds of Zach Wilde's Black Label Society. It's some good stuff. And Concrete Jungle. My name is TotalBiscuit. This is Blue Plz here on cynicalbrit.com. Yes. Such a slow week. It's annoying to never, ever really get fired up about anything in a week. There are times, there's the odd week where something doesn't happen, or where Blizzard just stays quiet and there's nothing within the community to rant about. Ugh. Hate it. It's paralyzing. It's like you're anesthetized. I should talk about Heavy Rain for 15 minutes, just for the sake of it. Such a great game. Just FYI, non-spoiler, Ethan Mars, worst dad ever, confirm deny. Lord. Right, so, let's talk a little bit about raid lockouts. Bit of anecdote. We, as Dark with the Skies, are sick to death of ICC. To the point, ladies and gents, where we've decided that we do not want anything to do with normal modes anymore. Yes, we do still need some gear. However, we're not going to go anywhere near it. Because what we want, quite frankly, is hard modes. We are sick. We are absolutely 110% completely, totally sick of ICC. Oh! Now, this is the same problem that we had with Ulduar. You want to know what that problem is, ladies and gents? Have you not guessed yet? Do you not remember what I said a little while ago? Oh, yes, I'm sure you do. I'm sure it's stuck in that little mind of yours. Probably back in there with all of the used things, you know, bottles on the floor, crisp packets. It's a bit dusty back there, there's space for rent, and just on the floor, hidden in the corner, left away, neglected, is that little kernel of your memory that said, oh yes, I remember TotalBiscuit saying that really big, long instances with absolutely no alternative for content for 6 months is a bad idea. Correct? Confirm, deny? Yes? No? Yeah. Terrible idea. And as it turns out, ICC is exactly the same. It's a waste of time. And it's just getting so bloody boring. I think this is more problematic, actually, to the guild with the smaller raiding schedule. Of course, we clear it slower than other people. The problem with that is, of course, we have to clear it over and over and over again. Just to make sure we've got the gear in order to do the hard modes, blah, blah, blah. I think we've gotten to the point where we probably do have the gear, but we are still dealing with Syndragoza. Now, of course, there's two explanations for that. The first of them is that we did not progress as fast as I wanted to, and we wiped on bosses we shouldn't have. I will happily say that we probably did. In fact, I know that we did. There were several bosses, like, say, Festigoat, which should have been an absolute walkover. For some reason, tripped us up for ages. Blood Prince is the same. But we've now got to the state where we've got the gear that we need, because we did the previous bosses, and the other times we just had issues with getting the right classes in order to do certain things. Obviously, 10-man guilds, you don't want to recruit too many people, because you end up putting a bunch of people on the bench. That's not a good thing at all. Nobody should think that that's a good thing. It's not. And there's really not a lot you can do about that in terms of the design of the game for the time being. Well, I suppose you could. I suppose you could vary the size of the dungeon and have it dynamically adjust itself, but hey, that sounds like an awful lot of work. We couldn't have that, could we? So, we ended up with a bunch of gear. We've got to the point where we're geared enough for hard modes, and we're not there yet. So I made the decision. I instituted. I pressed the big red button, and that big red button said, extend lockout. And thus it was. The lockout was extended, and will continue to be extended until we are at hard modes. I am sick to death of ICC, and I want something better. Now, the problem with ICC, of course, is that the perpetual nerfing of the instance coming up to now has made the initial content really boring. If it was still challenging to some degree, then I'd be okay, but the fact of the matter is we can sleep through almost every fight. With the exception of Putricide and Princes, everything else is a sleepover. It's a Snorefest. Snorefest 2010. Who shall be headlining Snorefest 2010? Ladies and gentlemen, the hottest festival in raiding history. Well, that, of course, would be Lord Paragon and his band of merry men playing banjos in the background, saying, "We are a terrible boss now. We used to be terrible, we're even more terrible because we got the 5% buff, which is now a 10% buff, because, of course, ICC is really hard, am I right?" Now, naturally, we turn our stuff off for progress content, but it's very tempting to leave it on for the other stuff. But even if you don't, it's still not challenging, because they nerfed half of the fights into the bloody floor. Took away the aggro mechanic of Lord Paragon. What are you thinking? Why would you nerf that fight? That is just incredibly dumb. Gotta take Northrend Beast 10 is harder than that fight. So, I think the question lies is, when should you press the lockout button? It's a tricky concept. It goes back all the way back to vanilla. Here's the thing with vanilla, and this is something that has stuck around for a while. Yes, stuck around. Now, it's stuck around since vanilla, and there were times when people wouldn't show up for a raid because you were doing raid progress content as opposed to raid give epics content. People would show up for the farming run, and on the Wednesday usually, when the reset happened, when they knew that all the bosses would be farm stars. Hey, here's my DKP, here's my epics. Oh, suddenly they're not there on Saturday when we're asking them to do a boss that they can't kill in a matter of seconds. Now, I don't see that being a problem with our guild. We're pretty much on the level as to what we want out of the game, and it helps being a 10-man guild because you can be focused on the same goal with very little effort. But I think it will be an issue for some people, particularly 25-man guilds. If you want to press that button, you're turning round to the rest of the raid and saying, you are not getting epics until you beat this boss. Period. No badges, no epics. The badges are a real stinger, because of course there are a limited number of frost badges to be had every week. And if you cut off the main source of that, which is of course killing the other 10 bosses in ICC, which constitutes what? 21 badges? You get your 10 bosses, there's 12 bosses in ICC, you don't do Syndragoza, you don't do Lich King, so yeah, 2 per boss, and the 1 bonus, plus possibly 5 for the weekly quest if you get it. Yeah, you're asking people to give up 26 frost badges. That's harsh. I mean, that's almost half of a tier 10 piece, at least the gloves and the shoulders at any rate. that's a significant amount of money as well. You're asking them to give up a primordial Saronite. So if you want to quantify it to this. Quantify it to around, what, 1,500 gold. Is that how much they go for these days? That sounds about right on my server. You're asking people to give up, each raid member to give up the equivalent of 1,500 gold. That's harsh. That really is harsh, ladies and gentlemen. And that, of course, is not the only thing. You're giving up epics. And at the end of the day, while you can put together a nice set from badges, you're still going to have to get a lot of drops. And if you sacrifice a week's worth, then you don't know when that item will come up again. You don't know if it was going to come up that week. And it's one less roll of the dice. And I think people will object to that quite strongly. The thing is, you've got to do it one way or the other. If you really, really want a progress guild, a guild that doesn't burn out due to raid apathy, then you've got to keep advancing at a steady pace. And if you hit a brick wall, then you've got to ask yourself, okay, so is it okay to sacrifice, say, 1,500 gold's worth of item, and by that, of course, I mean the primordial Saronite that you could have bought with the amount of frost badges that you would have got up to that point. Are you willing to sacrifice the epics as well in order to do progress on a boss which is going to cost you money, as in consumables, repair bills? That's a difficult question to ask your guild. It's a difficult question to ask your raid. Honestly, that's tricky. That really is. I think that some guilds won't have a problem with it, but I think the majority will, honestly. You're asking your guild to all be in the same mindset, like, we want to progress no matter what the cost. And if that's not the case, and you're in a situation where some people aren't actually all that interested in progress, they want their epics, they want their loot, is it legitimate? Yeah, it's legitimate to choose loot if you want loot. I mean, I'm not going to say to someone, hey, you shouldn't be coming for loot. Loot is a valid part of the raiding experience, and you should expect people to want it. You should expect people to desire it, because that's what Blizzard has set it up to do. Simple as that. However, you have to take that and counterbalance it against the concept that your raid might get sick of this instance. This is not the raid's fault, you know? Obviously, you could progress slow if your raid sucks, that's fine. But it's not the raid's fault that people are getting burned out on this content. How long's ICC been out? Exactly? How long? Someone tell me. Someone go Google it for me. I'm sure they can find out. I'll find it out myself. Which patch did Ice Crown Citadel come out in? Was it 3? It was 3.3, yeah? I think it was 3.3, as I recall. Let's have a look. I actually don't know, but whatever the case, it's been out for several months. Ha! There we are. Yes, I can find it on WoW Wiki. What I want to know is, how is Blizzard expecting us to continue to play this instance? It came out on the 8th of December 2009. It's been out over 4 months. Well, almost 4 months. 4 months! 4 months. Wow. Yeah, so 4 months, and we're expecting Cataclysm when? November? Yeah, pretty much. That's when we're expecting Cataclysm to come out in around November time. With one raid, and bear in mind it's a tiny raid between then and then, God, people are gonna get so sick. What is Blizzard expecting people to do in that time, honestly? We're already sick of ICC to the point where we desperately want to be on the hard modes just to get a little bit of extra content out of it. And I'm gonna be honest here, hard modes are cool and all, but it's still the same boss, it's still the same scenery, it's even still the same loot. It is. You get this loot that has heroic underneath it. It's the same items with minor stat increases, a couple of extra gem slots if you're lucky. What are you gonna do? PvP? What? No, don't be absurd. So, I think that extending the raid lockout is endemic of a much larger problem. that Blizzard did not provide a good enough variety of content. They put all their eggs in one basket. They dedicated months of development time to this big, huge instance that people are now suddenly sick of. And you might say, oh, well, it's got wings. Right, okay. Red Bull gives you wings, and tampons have wings. I don't suppose they do, but the pads do, whatever the case. That doesn't make them exciting, and it certainly doesn't make them practical. Just bear this in mind, ladies and gents, that those wings require you to get through the first 4 bosses every time. Like, whoopity-doo. I've got to go through 4 bosses, which are all boring. Every last one of them, terribly boring. Think about it. Lord Marigar, boring. Death Whisper, boring. Airship Battle, boring. Tower Fang, boring. Ugh. So you gotta go through all of those, then clear some trash to get into any of those wings whatsoever. And is there any benefit to skipping them? No, not really. It does make me wonder, exactly, whether or not they should just allow you to skip straight to the Lich King at this point. Or skip straight to Syndragoza. Just ignore all of this nonsense. But whatever the case, this is what should have happened. What should have happened is they should have had ICC as 2 separate instances and built them together with different storylines. Just varied the scenery up. Because right now you've got this one instance, and it's the only thing worth going into. Think about it, 12 bosses. 12 bosses. That could have been 3 instances. Maybe throw in a couple more. Go for it, why not? Throw in a couple more. That could have been 3 instances. Let's say a 5, a 5, and a 4. 14 bosses. How difficult would that have been? Not all that difficult. Split them up, made them a little bit different. Scaled the difficulty in such a way that makes sense. So you've got, instead of having a flat difficulty curve, and then stuff like, Rot Face, which is not that hard, and Festigut, which is not that hard, and then End of Wing, which is, oh my god, hard, and then Dreamwalker, which is not remotely hard, difficulty being all over the place there. Why couldn't you have just made the 2 or 3 separate instances? Just made it a little bit more interesting there. Sounds like an idea to me, honestly. So, should your guild extend the raid lockout? Well, I think it's just a stopgap measure, honestly. Getting onto hard modes is going to be a stopgap for us. I think we're still going to get bored of it one way or the other, because it's the same bosses with some extra mechanics. It's not the same as a different raid dungeon. We're not all excited about seeing brand new content, because we're not. We're seeing a difficulty slider. A difficulty slider, quite frankly, that I would have been preferred to turn onto hard at the very start. Seriously. That's what I would have preferred to have been able to do. Just do it on hard. Yeah, it would have taken longer, but we wouldn't have been sick of the content by the time we got to hard modes to begin with. We wouldn't have had to resort to this nonsense. And I can't see our guild flourishing all that much in hard mode, simply because it's the same thing we've already done with a couple of bells and whistles. Upsetting, really, isn't it? My name is TotalBiscuit. You're listening to Blue Plz here on cynicalbrit.com. I should play you some Testament, I think, some Disciples of the Watch, and I'll be back after this to tell you about Paragon's World first, and what exactly happened with Ensidia. I shall let you know. Enjoy. You're listening to the podcast, an archive of Blue Plz. Music was removed to comply with copyright law. If you'd like to hear the music, tune into the live stream on Fridays at 8 p.m. GMT. That's 3 p.m. EST, only on cynicalbrit.com. You're listening to Blue Plz, or should I say Beep Please? Yes, apparently the smoke detector's going off in the background. Don't worry, the house is not on fire. For some reason it's going off. I have no idea why. Whatever the case, it's getting resolved. Right, anyway, let's talk a little bit about the Ensidia Paragon race, which ended in Paragon winning. They downed the Lich King first in 25-man heroic mode, and congratulations to them for that. Very great, fantastic achievement, although the lack of mages and their explanation for it leaves a little bit to be desired, folks. Oh, mages do slightly less DPS. Oh, sorry that your mages aren't very good, then. Anyway. So, there's a couple of issues over this that I want to cover, and none of this is the fault of Paragon. I'm going to put this out from the very start. Please do not believe that I am siding with anyone or whatever. This is about Blizzard failing not once, but twice the hardcore raiding scene. So, Paragon did a great job of this, and the first thing is that they used the 5% damage, health, and healing buff in order to kill the Lich King. Now, of course, some people by that were screaming, "Oh, it's not a legitimate world first, blah, 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 blah." Yeah, well, we've had that before. I remember that nonsense. Pretty much the same as using the world buff, but it makes me wonder exactly why Blizzard would have even put that function into hard modes to begin with. Doesn't that defeat the point of the exercise? Aren't the hard modes supposed to be immune to that kind of nonsense? I thought that was the point. Like, these are designed for people that are really good, so we don't have to put any of this nonsense in whatsoever, because these guys are hardcore enough to handle it, and we're not aiming these at our scrubs. We're not aiming these at the other 98%. These are for the 2%. These are for the 5%. This is who they're for. So why exactly did we put that function in there? Did you think they weren't going to use it? Of course they're going to use it. Which means that the fights themselves are equivocally nerfed 5% across the board. People didn't seem to notice this. It's something of a stealth nerf. You know, people will react better to having this buff in there. Do you really think anyone's going to turn it off, especially when there's no benefit to it? No, absolutely not. They wouldn't. Hardcore raiding guilds use everything they possibly can in order to get an advantage. That is the way that it works. It's called min-maxing, ladies and gentlemen. And that is reasonable. But if you give them that option, and you give them that temptation, they're gonna take it! Obviously they're gonna take it! So, they're doing an easier version of Lich King. That doesn't mean Lich King isn't rock hard on 25-man heroic. It is! No one's taking that achievement away from them. No one is saying that Paragon didn't do good, because they did. They did incredibly well. Kudos. Kudos for that. But what they are saying is, so why did the fight get nerfed? Because that is effectively what happened. It is. That is effectively what happened there. The raid was buffed. The fight was nerfed. Same difference. I have to wonder. I have to ask why you would do that. And to me, this seems like a betrayal of what hard modes were supposed to be. I already object. You know, I already object to the concept of binary hard modes, yeah? Like, this is normal, it's really easy. This is hard, it's really hard. I'm sorry, that's nonsense. No, the real game has only 2 difficulty levels, especially when they're easy, rock hard. That's absurd. That is really, really dumb. I already object to that, but I object more to then nerfing hard modes down so that the only difficulty modes you now have are really easy and slightly less harder than it was previously, but slightly harder than this. So what, you've now got easy and slightly harder normal? What are you going for here? That's what I've got to wonder. What is it that you're after? What are Blizzard trying to do? Do they even know themselves? I can't imagine. If you're gonna have a hard mode, then make it hard and don't touch it with nerfs, don't touch it with random buffing of the raid, don't declaw the content at all. Just leave it as it is. Because at the end of the day, I'll tell you what hard modes are right now, entirely optional content. They are entirely optional. And I say that simply because they come after the fact. You get to see the content. Yes, see the content. Whoopity frickin' do. Yeah, this concept of seeing the content has been abnormally terrible from the beginning. If you want to see the content, watch it on YouTube. Just to make it easy so people can take a guided tour through the hallowed halls of ICC. And to the left, you will see a horrible flesh-eating abomination. Don't feed it, kids. Yeah, God, why? Why? I can't imagine. Here's the fact, as far as I'm concerned. 5% buff, 10% buff, any percent buff should not be available in hard modes, period. Because you're doing a disservice to hardcore guilds. Of course hardcore guilds are going to use the buff. So what you're doing, what you're saying to them, let's look at it from a different angle. Hi hardcore guilds, how are you? Yeah, you're doing great, excellent. So I heard that you guys were progressing and that you were gradually making your way towards defeating one of the hardest fights in the game. So to take a little bit of that achievement away from you, what we'd like to do is we would like to buff you across the board. Yeah, 5% health, 5% healing, 5% damage. That's what we'd like to do for you. And we'll give you the option to turn it off, but we'll give you no benefit whatsoever to do so. We'll not even give you any way of proving that you didn't have it on. No way at all. We're not even going to give you a feat of strength for it. Not even this tiny little merit badge. You're not having that either. But we're going to put it in there, and I'm sure you guys will turn it off, right? Right? We're giving you the option. No, they're not going to turn it off. That would be stupid. That would be dumb to give away an advantage like that. But it does take away from those guilds the achievement of defeating something that is really, really, really hard. Rock solid. It's a shame, honestly. And I don't know what Blizzard are doing about that. I don't understand. I understand that hard modes are a testing thing, right? There's something that they haven't done previously, and it's a new part of the raiding philosophy. It's a good part of the raiding philosophy, I like it, but it needs an awful lot of work, and I think that Blizzard need to look very carefully at where they want to go with this, because to me that seems like completely ruining the concept. Surely. Why would you do that? I don't know. I have no idea. Do they? Pfft, who knows? Now, the other issue is the fact that, of course, they were racing with Ensidia. Now, Ensidia moved over to Paragon's server about a week before Paragon actually got the kill. Actually, it may have been even less than that, come to think of it. Whatever the case, you want to know why? They did that because their progress was massively impeded by griefing and bad server hardware on Taran Mill. Now, Blizzard did basically nothing to stop this. For weeks and weeks and weeks, I believe it was a month or so, this happened to Ensidia and indeed to all the other guilds on that server, and nothing was done, and they fell behind as a direct result of this. Now, I'm not saying that Ensidia would have won. They may not have. Paragon are extremely good at what they do. Yogg plus 0, anyone? Yeah, they're good. They know their stuff. No doubt about it. No one should ever take that achievement away from them. They are the absolute top echelon of guild. But the issue then lies, it's not much of a race if your opponent has ankle weight strapped to him, is it? Again, not Paragon's fault. Blizzard's fault. Blizzard's fault for allowing that to happen. Blizzard's fault for not transferring them off the damn server as soon as that started happening. I mean, for God's sake, they had to pay for their entire guild to move again, just to avoid a technical issue that, quite frankly, should have been resolved on Blizzard's end. It's garbage. It honestly is. And it also brings into the fore and sort of highlights the idea that if you're going to have racing for world firsts, then how can you really do that unless you have proper server equality? Makes me wonder how worthwhile it would be to have a server specifically set up for raiding. It's like, this is all that this is here for, and you have to qualify for this server by being X number of guild in the world or whatever. Of course, that's entirely impractical. No one's going to do it, and it's certainly not going to help on Blizzard's end at all. I mean, you really think they're going to do that? No. Don't be absurd. It's not going to happen. But it's an idea. Yeah. Now, it's really all I've got to say about it, honestly. What can you say other than Blizzard screwed up? They did. That's all that happened. Blizzard screwed up, end of story, and I think that both guilds, I would imagine, are quite upset about it. Obviously Ensidia, because they weren't able to compete properly, and Paragon, because on more than one front there, World First was cheapened by things outside of their control. Now you might say, well, TotalBiscuit, they had this buff in control. They could have turned it off. Yeah, but would you? Would you have done that? Because you can never guarantee. That's the thing. You have a gentleman's agreement with the other guilds not to use that buff? No. You don't do that because invariably, since there's no way to check and there's no way to be held accountable for it, it's going to happen. You're going to use it. Of course you're going to use it. And that's that. I don't really have anything else to say on the matter, ladies and gents. As you can tell, I haven't been all that enthused by anything that's been happening with WoW lately. So we're going to go and go into a song and go into the illusion of choice and then end the show. We'll make it a little bit short today. Sorry for that, ladies and gents. Hopefully, after our tales of beating Syndragoza into the floor and getting onto Lich King, I'll have a nice story to tell on next week's show. So send them in, folks. We've got a couple of minutes to do that, and the one that I picked today will receive a very special prize. Yes, indeed. I'll also let you guys in the archive know how you can win a mini Griffin hatchling at the end of the show. Sounds good, doesn't it? Yes. Right, ladies and gents, my name is TotalBiscuit. You're listening to a rather shortened Blue Plz here on cynicalbrit.com. Play us some music, and I shall be right back with the illusion of choice. Yes, indeed. A little bit of iced earth wouldn't go amiss, don't you think? Have some desert rain? Yes. I don't care if you don't like it, you're having it anyway. Enjoy. You are listening to the podcast, an archive of Blue Plz. Music was removed to comply with copyright law. If you'd like to hear the music, tune into the live stream on Fridays at 8 p.m. GMT. That's 3 p.m. EST, only on cynicalbrit.com. Yes, indeed, folks, it's the illusion of choice! Yes. Right, so we incentivized it a little bit today, got a lot of illusions of choice. No doubt I'll be using these in the next couple of weeks, so thank you very much for those. I shall make good use of them. There is one, however, that I really liked and I thought is worthy of discussion. So, I want to give this person the Wind Rider pet. The question is, who is it? Should have a drum roll or something. Nah. So I'm going to give it to Holly Ari, who sent in an email regarding RP. Now, I think this is a great topic to discuss. So let's have a look at it right now. And if you want something to RP with, then how about a little Wind Rider cub thing? There you go, you can have that. So that should satisfy your RP needs for the time being. Now, here's the particular topic in question. TotalBiscuit, I know very often you rage about wasting development resources on things like player housing, and I also think that player housing in specific is a bad idea. I don't think that using some development resources, maybe even occasionally a large development project towards the role-playing side of World of Warcraft, however, would be a bad idea at all. While raiding in the endgame is definitely a large part of World of Warcraft, and should get most of the resources, I feel that to neglect the minorities that don't raid, or raid as a side thing, is a bad idea. Blizzard acknowledges that role-playing is part of the game by even having role-play servers. Is it really terrible to occasionally give some improvement on the role-play side of World of Warcraft? The argument is, not everyone enjoys role-playing. You can make the same argument for any aspect of the game. Not everyone PvPs and not everyone raids. What are your thoughts? Yeah. It's a good point, actually. That is a really good point indeed. Okay. So, let's have a think. Should they devote resources to roleplay? Well, first things first. The only resources that I think should be devoted to roleplay in the first instance are police for the actual servers, as in mandatory enforcement of RP rules. To me, RP servers right now are pointless because people don't RP on them. Therein lies the major problem of the exercise. You can't build content for RPers, and you can't do things like that unless you have a place for them to RP to begin with that is properly protected. I'm not talking about what we've got right now, where you've got a couple of guilds that RP, a couple of people that RP, but a load of people that try and ruin it for the rest of us. Now, I don't agree with RP in WoW. I don't do it, I have no interest in it, but I also have no interest in annoying and ruining the fun of people that do. That's the point. There is no reason for that, and that should be stopped. So, what kind of resources should they devote to that? Well, for one thing, as far as I'm concerned, there should be a dedicated GM team. A dedicated GM team for RP servers. There doesn't have to be that many of them. Admittedly, there are not an awful lot of RP servers to begin with. So just a division of the GM team whose job is solely to enforce RP. Yeah? As in, guys spamming all over the place, guys ruining the RP experience, get rid of them. Set down clear rules as to what is RP, what is not, what is acceptable, and what isn't on an RP server. Not just guidelines, I'm talking about actual rules. Rules that are properly enforced. You do that, and then you get the GMs to properly police it, and either suspend people or forcibly transfer their character to another server. They obviously should be offering transfers to anyone that doesn't want to RP, get the hell off the RP servers, then build new transfer across the board for people that actually want to move to an RP server and aren't playing on one right now because they know that there's no RP going on because, hey, it's impossible to RP if everyone's screwing around. So, that's the first investment that I would say. Free transfers to RP servers, free transfers off of RP servers for, say, a couple of weeks, nothing more than that. And after that's done, and make it very clear, it's like, if you are not going to RP, move. We'll allow you to move your entire guild, anyone you want to another server, whatever, not a problem, or we'll move you to an entirely new realm, whatever, just create a new realm, anything like that. But you've got 2 weeks to decide. If you're not going to RP, get the hell off. Now, you might say, well, surely that's a lot of resource. Well, it's not really, honestly, when you think about it. Yes, the RP community is something that should be supported. If you're not going to support the RP community, tell me, why do you have RP servers to begin with? Honestly, isn't that a resource? Why don't you just get rid of them entirely? Change the rules. Change them to PvP and PvE servers. Just have done with them. Don't even bother. The label is pointless because nobody enforces the label. It's as simple as that. Yes, RPers are a portion of the community. Yes, money should be spent there. There are GMs, there are plenty of GMs. You only need a few. Honestly, you only need a few GMs dedicated to one role specifically, enforcing RP. Like, you get a report someone's not RPing, you investigate it, you deal with it. Simple as that. That doesn't seem to me to be a particularly difficult concept, nor is it a massive expenditure of resources. And transfers are free, so don't even get me onto that. No, they're not manually done. There's no nonsense like that. Just do it. Get everyone that doesn't want to RP off of the RP servers. Get those who want to RP onto the RP servers. Maybe give them a week's grace period where you're able to transfer back off again if it's not your thing. And after that's done, you say, right, this is an RP server. You're not RPing. You're going to get punished with suspensions. You're going to get punished with bans. Now, and probably the most severe thing would be move them off to a different server. If you're not going to RP, get the hell off our server. Now, when that happens, then you can look into actually investing development resources into RP activity. Because right now you've got things like the festivals and the seasonal events. That's about as close as you're going to get to role-playing within WoW. Now, I don't think that WoW in any way, shape or form is a good MMO for RPing in. Honestly, I don't think the universe is particularly good. I don't think the lore's all that great. I just don't think it's designed for it. But some people want to do it, and I am not going to take that away from them. I wouldn't do that. You know, why would I? To be honest, people want to RP, so okay. Fine. Cool. Whatever. Let them do it, and let them support it. It's not... Here's the difference, right? The difference between these attitudes would be if Blizzard had not created RP servers from the get-go and promoted RP events from the get-go, then they would not have to support this in any way. Yeah? It's like, oh, guys are doing RP. Right. W/E, whatever. Who cares? They decided to do this on their own. Who cares? This is not them deciding to do it on their own. This is Blizzard saying, here is an environment where you can do this. We've had it in the game from the get-go. Go here to RP. You will not find RP anywhere else. If you're going to do that, then support it. Either support it or get rid of it entirely. Honestly. Don't have this rubbish halfway house. And until that happens, you can't afford to invest anything in RP at all. You can't develop anything that's RP friendly. You can't do anything like that. You can't devote resources in any way, shape or form to RP simply because you don't have an environment where it happens. And it's not a safe environment to RP in. Simple as that. Right, ladies and gents, get your shout-outs into me for the last few minutes of the show. Yes, I know it's been a short show today. My apologies for that. I got nothing to talk about. Sorry, nothing's happened with WoW. I'm not going to force a topic just for the sake of it, so might as well keep it short and to the point. I'll be back in a couple of hours with Shoutcraft, and I'm actually going to be doing this solo tonight, so I would hope as many of you as possible turn up to show support, because quite frankly, I'm terrified of this whole damn thing. Wow. I'm going to be in front of many, many people indeed doing the broadcasting on my own because Emp is off with his family and doing the whole magical, mystical, wonderful art of, well, family time over the course of Good Friday. It's a good idea. No one's going to say otherwise. But yeah, man, it's been a rather boring week, quite honestly. Ladies and gentlemen, my name's TotalBiscuit. You have been listening to Blue Plz. Get in your shouts. Email them to me at themurloc@cynicalbrit.com. Alternatively, you can PM me on the chat room or on IRC. That's irc.quakenet.org, hash or pound cynicalbrit. Alternatively, send them in to the murloc@cynicalbrit.com. Or you can tweet me if you so desire. Yes, that's twitter.com/TotalBiscuit. let's get your shout-out sorted out. And in the meantime, of course, I must remind you to go check out the rest of the shows on cynicalbrit.com. There are many things. I'd also like to put out an official announcement here. I'm going to be putting together a brand new show for PC gaming. Yes, indeed, a PC gaming specific show, and it's going to contain a variety of very cool features. Now, I suppose I could leak a few of them right now. Let's talk about it a little bit while the shout-outs come in. So, I don't really have a name for this yet. I've got a sort of working title called Superior Platform, which is probably going to annoy a lot of people, but hey. Got that together, and I've got a couple of ideas for this show. I'm going to be putting together a segment on hardware, which is going to involve rounds up of the latest benchmarks, hardware advice, sort of a Q&A section, agony aunt section, and at the end of the segment, we're going to be rounding up what the best price performance PC is. And I'm going to be calling that segment, But Can It Play Crysis? Also, we're going to be doing something called GOG Roulette, whereby every couple of weeks, this is going to be a bi-monthly show. Every couple of weeks, me and my co-hosts get a GOG game at random to play. It doesn't matter what it is, might be terrible, might not be. Play it, and then we come back and talk about it, kind of book club style thing. We're also going to be doing an event every 2 weeks, which is going to be a gaming night, and we're going to be allowing the listeners to send in their anecdotes from the night, as well as discuss it in great detail. Investigate what PC gaming is like as a community feature. So, yeah, stuff like that. It's going to be good, folks. We're going to also have an indie view, as we're calling it, which is an interview with an indie developer every 2 weeks. Yeah. So, that's coming up. It's going to be every other week with Gaming the System on the alternating weeks, because, of course, that's now had to go down the lines of a bi-monthly show due to Swag's work commitments. Now, the reason I'm asking you and telling you about this is because I am opening up 2 slots for co-hosting. So, if you think you know an awful lot about PC gaming, you've got a good mic, good voice, and you're into the whole hardware side of things, then drop me an email. Just drop it into the murloc@cynicalbrit.com. Let me know. Send me in a little demo of you talking, and we can get together and talk about it. Right, ladies and gents, let's do these shout-outs, shall we? There are plenty of them coming in right now, and yes, you can send them over the chat room. So here we go. A shout-out to Nagranol's Beard, because it's awesome and you know it, and also Boss Wally asking for a shout-out to Nagranol's Beard. Nagranol's Beard seems to be a rather popular thing. May I have a shout-out to Axelia, by the way of an In the Mountains drop-in? I suppose you could, except I've lost the drop-in, so I'm going to have to simulate it myself, because I have no idea where it's gone.
In the mountains.
Yes, custom drop-ins live on the show. That's indeed. That's from Gateau. Shout out to Black Book for bunny ears, Aussie hats, and staying up till 4 a.m. for this. You're crazy, man. You're crazy. A shout out to the AI named TotalBiscuit kicking out ass in DAO 2. Yeah, that was quite embarrassing for a lot of you, wasn't it? A shout out to Rigo for his awesome coffee maker. That's from Quarrel. I could do with some coffee right now, actually. A shout out to my guild in the mountains on Barthalas. Just started raiding. Thanks, guys, for the effort. And what the hell's that? Kugo Talk. That's from Sephiric. I have no idea what that is. A shout out to Kakwao of Rune Totem EU. Really looking forward to the shoutcraft later on. And a shout out to me, Foley, and my guild Tag. That is, needless to say, from Foley. Let's see what else we've got. Plenty of them. A shout out to my favourite drop-in. Not one but 2 Jawmanga worms, you say?
Not one, but 2 Jawmanga worms.
Yes, indeed, that's from Holly, who won our little prize today. A shout out to everyone on the chat, specifically Black Book, with his funny bunny ears from Diadedin, and to B-Drone, with his soul harvester. Shout out to Angelo Mew, that's from Onin, okay, I have no idea. Can I have a shout out to Incentive on Boulder Fist EU for getting 10 out of 12 with only 2 days a week, and to myself for being there, awesome GM. That's 10 out of 12 on ICC 25. Yes, indeed, we know it works, guys. We are part of the 2-day Raiden crew, yo, and so forth. Right, I think we're about done, ladies and gents. Except Sephiric saying, scroll up, nub. Do it, Kugo. I don't know what you're talking about. All I've got here is Kugo Talk, do it, scroll up, nub, Kugo Talk, please. I don't know what you're talking about. Go away. Alright, I'm about done. So, one last thing before I leave. If you're an archive listener, you'd like to win a delicious, please don't eat this, pet Griffin hatchling, then I can sort that out for you. All I want you to do, ladies and gents, is when the archive goes up on the site, cynicalbrit.com, when the Blue Plz archive goes up, which of course it'll be up when you hear this if you're listening to the archive, I would like you to post a comment answering that question that I put in earlier. Which 5-man heroic boss would you like to see expanded into a full raid encounter, and what would you do in order to make that happen? So I want to see, would you change the mechanics? What would you buff up? What do you think would make an interesting fight? I'm done, folks. I'm exhausted. I need some coffee before I do Shoutcraft later on. Thank you very much for listening tonight, and I will see you next time. One last thing before I go. There was a request from Omega Hair. God knows if I can find it. It's all the way back in the mists of time. There we go. This is a requested shout-out to Omega Hair's friend Joanna, aka Scarecrow, who turns a very youthful 31 today. Would it be possible to get something played for her from this list? Wow, you've managed to give me a list of things that I do not have, except for one track. So I shall give that one to you right now. Yes, indeed. Big birthday shout out to Joanna, and I'm out for here. Good night. You have been listening to the podcast and archive of Blue Plz, WoW's #1 shock jock show, only on cynicalbrit.com. We'd love to hear from you, so feel free to leave a comment on the Cynical Brit website or write a review of the show on iTunes. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time.